Good morning, gentlemen. This is Coach Dub coming to you live from downtown Fort Worth with your Horned Frog podcast. This week is a special edition of the Horned Frog podcast, and the special edition is brought to you by Joe T. Garcia's. If you need a good feeling, you need Joe T's. A celebration is only as good as the people you share it with and the food you enjoy. The best gatherings create stories you won't forget. That's why you need more than a dining experience. You need an escape to a legendary family table where you can savor life with the people who matter most. Joe T. Garcia's, the best Mexican food in all of Texas since 1935. On this special edition of the Horned Frog podcast, we're going to look at the conference outlooks for the season. We're going to look at some Heisman hopefuls, and we're going to look at some notable Week 1 games, especially your game of the week for Week 1, number 8 Arkansas versus number 1 Tennessee. We're going to start in the ACC, folks, where everybody's saying it's going to be Nebraska versus Louisville in the ACC championship. And if I am asked to, I do not want to pick that game, folks, because last year Nebraska got Louisville early in the season. Then Louisville got Nebraska in the playoffs when it really mattered. So to me, it's a pick 'em. You can't go wrong either way. But if I had to choose a winner, I'm taking whoever loses in the regular season because I'm going to expect them to not lose twice. But it's not just Nebraska and Louisville, and I can't say that they'll be your ACC Conference Championship game because after Coach Bismo Funyuns left Notre Dame for the NFL, Notre Dame Fighting Irish got him a new coach. And not only is he seasoned, he's battle-tested, and he'll be dangerous, and so will the Fighting Irish. Watch out for Notre Dame because they're not going down without a fight. But you want a sleeper pick? I'm going to give you one. Virginia Tech. Nobody's talking about them but that air raid offense. You better watch out. That coach for Virginia Tech, he's smart and he plays good. And if you're not careful, Virginia Tech will sweep right in and take them an ACC Conference Championship in the first year in the ACC. But I got a dark horse pick that nobody's talking about and nobody's even looking at. And I'm going to say it one time for you, so listen close. UCLA. The Bruins are dangerous, folks, and they score points in bunches. Just ask Nebraska. They put over 40 on them last season, and it was everything the Huskers could do to find a way to win that game, as UCLA couldn't be stopped on the offensive side of the ball. And let me tell you this, they put 72 seasons ago on Fresno State. So if you think UCLA is out of it, don't believe that, folks, because they can score, and they'll score easy. And if they can find a way to limit some turnovers and get some shutdown defense, UCLA could make a push this season for the ACC championship. Let's look at the Big Ten conference outlook for this season. Everybody thinks that number 1 Tennessee is a shoo-in. They also think it's going to be number 1 Tennessee versus South Carolina, a rematch of last year's Big Ten championship. But I'm going to tell you that may be the case and it may not, because it's not a 2-horse race in the Big Ten, it's a 4-horse race. After the season that the Washington Huskies had last year, they're going to have another miraculous, outstanding season this year, and they're not going away without a fight. You better watch out for the Huskies. They played Tennessee close last year. They played South Carolina close last year. And they're going to do it again this year because the Huskies aren't going anywhere, folks. But like I said, it's a 4-horse race. And you may be asking yourself, who's that 4 team? Well, let me tell you. The coach from Iowa 2 seasons ago won a national championship. And he's moved on to the Ohio State Buckeyes. And the Ohio State Buckeyes are better for it, folks. Because he's going to take them to the promised land, or he's damn sure going to try. Ohio State is dangerous, especially at home. And they'll be dangerous in the Big Ten this season. Do not count out Ohio State. Do not count out Washington. Tennessee and South Carolina, Washington Huskies, and Ohio State Buckeyes have officially put you on notice. Now let's talk about the SEC and their conference outlook for the season. People cannot make up their minds what the conference championship will look like this season. Some people say Texas Tech versus Arkansas, a rematch from last year. Some people say Texas Tech versus West Virginia. Other people are saying West Virginia versus Arkansas. They cannot make up their minds. But let me tell you what I gotta say. Not so fast, my friend. The Auburn Tigers, quiet last season, are not gonna be quiet this season. They are coming full force and full tilt. And you can take that to the bank, Jack, because you heard it here first on the Horned Frog Podcast from Coach Dub. Auburn's got him a new running back. He used to be a wide receiver, George Oppenheisel. He's considered to be this year's Heisman favorite. If Auburn finds a way to run the ball with him in their backfield and they find a way to play good defense, you better watch out for Auburn this year in the SEC. We also have Florida, a new coach coming in the SEC this season. We don't know much about him, but Florida is always dangerous, and it's hard to play in the swamp, so don't count out Florida either. It's going to be another exciting season in the SEC. Let's talk about the Big 12 conference outlook. Everybody's saying it's going to be Florida State versus TCU in the championship game. That's probably not far from the truth. Florida State is great. TCU is great. They've had some really memorable games. If it is Florida State versus TCU, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be TCU 41, Florida State 35, because those two teams always play it close and it's always a one-score game. But with Gideon Sweet at wide receiver, those sweet feet, and then you got Lee Eafall, the speedy back in the backfield, and then you got senior quarterback Tavita Scipio. They are a potent offense, folks. They were dangerous last year as one of the best offenses and scoring offenses in the country, and I doubt it'll be any different this year. And if they can find some defense, TCU is going to be really dangerous. But let's talk about the other teams. Liberty and Michigan State coming into the Big 12 this season. They're both looking good and looking to improve their teams, and I believe that's going to happen. And let me tell you, there's also another new team in the Big 12, and that's North Carolina. And boy, could they stir things up. Everybody better watch out for North Carolina this year in the Big 12. But I'm going to say one last thing about the Big 12, and that's go Horned Frogs. Win it all. Now we're going to talk Heisman hopefuls for the season a little bit, folks. Auburn running back George Oppenheisel. He is the Heisman favorite this season. He didn't put up big numbers last year in the receiving game or in the backfield. He did a little bit of both. But his speed and move to running back to get more playing time, as well as how he performed in spring practice in the Auburn spring game, has everybody in the country talking about George Oppenheisel. Auburn had a depleted running back room, and so they moved him from wide receiver to fill a gap. And if he plays good in the backfield for Auburn, they will be dangerous, and he will have a shot at the Heisman. Also looking at an early Heisman hopeful, South Carolina quarterback Marcus Youssef. He didn't have great numbers last year due to being injured part of the season, but when he did play, he was outstanding. And this year, his senior year, he could be outstanding again. If he limits the turnovers and puts up big numbers like he managed to do last year at the end of the season, I can guarantee you South Carolina quarterback Marcus Youssef will be in the run for the Heisman. But I want to give you a dark horse pick that nobody's talking about, folks. Nebraska running back, Appa Thrash. He's going to replace Isaac, the Knight Parker, this season for the Huskers. And let me tell you about Appa Thrash. He's speedy, he's quick, and he can run the ball. But not only can he run it, that Nebraska offensive line is coming back this season, and they're going to be just as good as they were last season. And that Nebraska coach loves to run the ball. And he will run it down people's throats. As long as they're getting yards, Nebraska's going to run the rock and they're going to pound it down the opponent's throats this season. So expect Appa Thrash to jump in to the Heisman race. But I got one more we want to talk about. TCU running back Lee Eafall. Last year he played in the slot in the backup to Baraka Hui. Lee Eafall broke the national season record for receptions in a season, folks. He jumped a running back halfway through. He had 1,000 plus rushing yards. He had 2,000 plus receiving yards and over 150 receptions. And he may not play in the slot this year because they're expecting him to be the starter and to run the ball more than he did last year. But I promise you he will catch it out of the backfield. And they may slip him in the slot because he is slippery fast. And that's why they call him Lee the Jet Eafall. Just another name for you to watch out for. And that's your Heisman hopefuls for the upcoming season. Let's look at some notable matchups for week 1. Number 3, Washington versus Virginia Tech in that air raid offense. This could be a sneaky good Virginia Tech team. I think Washington's going to have to watch out. I think it's going to be a close one, but I'm going to go 35-34 Virginia Tech. I think Washington goes for 2 at the end for the win, and Virginia Tech finds some defense. Now we're looking at, we got Auburn versus Oregon. I got Auburn 42 to Oregon 31. Here's a big matchup, folks. Number 5, Texas Tech versus number 4, South Carolina. I believe South Carolina can beat Texas Tech. I believe they can get it done. But I also believe it's going to be a close game. And when it's a close game, Texas Tech always finds a way to win in the waning seconds. If it's a trick play or it's a drive down the field for a score, Texas Tech in a close one always finds a way to get it done. I'm taking Texas Tech 42-38 over South Carolina. And in your game of the week, number 8, Arkansas versus number 1, Tennessee. If Arkansas makes it a shootout, I think they win it 42-35 because I don't think Tennessee can score more than 35 points on the Arkansas defense. But Arkansas is only going to make it a shootout if quarterback Dwayne Moses parts the Tennessee defense like Moses parted the Red Sea with great passes for big yards and touchdowns. And he can't do it unless he gets some help from that receiving core in Arkansas. And let me tell you, wide receiver Eddie Lord, they're saying in Fayetteville he could be their savior this year with receptions and touchdowns. But listen to this, folks. If Arkansas is going to beat Tennessee, Eddie Lord is going to have receptions and touchdowns on Saturday. And that's going to wrap up our show for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Coach Dub from downtown Fort Worth signing off. Until next time.